Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to Night TV.
It's not that I want you here. Yeah. It's not the way you say to my eyes.
By the time you guys see this, it'll probably be evening, being that my Wi-Fi sucks and it takes forever to upload a video. But we're going to go on anyway. But first, let me say, the people who participate in Vlogmas, where they post a video like every day of the month of December, I have much respect for you. It is very much difficult to produce a video daily, okay? This takes a lot of work, a lot more than I thought I had signed up for. But I just got to give shouts out to y'all because y'all have a lot of patience and y'all have a lot of wherewithal because your girl be wanting to quit on a daily basis. But no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to bring you guys this episode of Death on a Dirt Road. And today's feature is Sarah Grace Nichols. Just as a quick side note, I had a bowl of miso ramen and I am like feeling so lazy. I just want to pass out, but I'm going to push on because I know that this video has to come out. But if you're ever in the Columbia area, hit up Polk Brothers. This video is not sponsored, which it should be. But the miso ramen, oh my gosh, like I am never going to eat another bowl of oodles of noodles ever again. Like, you have to have the real authentic. Has your mother ever gotten on your nerves? I mean, like, got under your skin to the point where you just wanted to throw something because you just were that angry. But you knew the only thing you could do was talk under your breath or just maybe leave for the day. Or maybe y'all had a slight argument. But I guarantee you, it never resulted in murder like the story I'm about to tell you. Editing night here. Unfortunately, I could not find any photos of Nell Davis on the internet, no matter where I searched, even in the archives. The only thing I could find was her gravestone, which was on the Find a Grave page. So that's just something to know as the video goes along. Sarah Grace Nichols was 17 years old in October of 1999 when her mother, Nell Crowley Davis, was attacked and beaten to death in her backyard in Hilton Head, South Carolina. According to Kevin Bergen, 19, and John Ridgeway, 18, the attack was a part of a scheme hatched by Sarah herself. And at Sarah's trial, they did testify that the attack had no real rhyme or reason. They just wanted the combination to the family safe, which they mistakenly believed held thousands of dollars. Where they had gotten that from had to have come from Sarah because they wouldn't have known. As a matter of fact, John Ridgeway wasn't even from South Carolina. He had come from New Canaan, Connecticut. John Ridgeway testified that the plan was not well thought out, and while they had an objective, it was really just to play it by ear. He continued that he didn't think that she would end up dead. He just wanted a car and a lot of money so he can buy a lot of drugs and get far, far away from the area. Mike Davis, Sarah's stepfather, said Sarah was like a caged animal. She had no privileges in the house. He even admitted that he was sure she didn't enjoy living in their home, but she didn't try in school, which meant that her mother did not extend any privileges to her. And they had a terrible relationship, according to him. They would argue, they would fight. And as a matter of fact, about a month before the killing, they had a particularly bad argument. And he went into Sarah's room and found her shaking. She was trembling with rage. And she told him, "I'm going to kill her." Given the state of Sarah and her mother's relationship, that played into the motive. So everyone was well versed in the fact that Nell Davis and Sarah Nichols had what some people called an irreparable relationship that stemmed back from the time when Sarah was a little girl. So as a countermeasure, Sarah's attorney brought into evidence the fact that Kevin Bergen had brought along books about the occult. It's basically rituals that they can use on dead bodies. So he was trying to say basically that they needed a sacrifice, and Nell Davis turned out to be it at the insistence of Sarah Nichols. And that is what I gathered by him introducing these things, because there was no other reason to bring that into evidence other than the fact to defend his client and say that they were lying about the fact that it was all Sarah's idea when they in fact needed a sacrifice to practice on. I just want to say that that part makes a lot of sense, because knowing Sarah, she is what some people would call a Wiccan. And I never heard of that before I got to the prison. And that's basically, she says it's not like an evil type of witchcraft. They like worship nature and different type of natural gods, that type of thing. But it just makes sense just knowing her character, knowing that she was a part of a Wiccan group in SCDC. I'm not sure if she still is, because I've seen her do some Christian programs. I've seen her do some things that are just not Wiccan related. You know, Christianity and Wiccan, they don't go together. So I am not sure if she is still a part of the occult or the Wiccan religion. But it does make sense to me that she was a part of this with Kevin Bergen. Is my camera blurry? So to be as accurate as possible about this portion of the story, I'm going to read from a news article regarding what Sarah's attorney grilled Kevin Bergen about. And basically, he grilled Kevin Bergen about the rituals described in the Necromantic Ritual book. So that's the book that Kevin had. The book described how to perform rituals on dead bodies and was inside a bag that also contained 2 voodoo dolls, runes, a vial of so-called dragon's blood, incense, and candles. So they had some plans. Now, whether or not it was to kill Nell Davis, nobody can say, but they definitely needed a human sacrifice to perform these rituals. Police got a hold of this evidence when they pulled over the Chevy Tahoe that Sarah Nickel was driving. She did have Kevin Bergen and John Ridgeway in there, so they all were arrested. Both men were promised 30-year sentences for testifying against Sarah, which they did in a big way. Another plan that they had, the one that did not end up working out prior to them killing Nell Davis, was to kill Sarah's stepfather and her younger siblings. Essentially, Nell Davis was attacked outside of her home in Occult with a baseball bat in October of 1999, which did result in her death. And both men basically stated that Sarah was the mastermind behind the entire plan and that everything they did was at her insistence so that they can get a lot of money and a lot of drugs and get out of the area. Because as I stated prior, Sarah felt like a caged animal. She had no privileges. Her mom never allowed her to leave the house. And Nell's reasoning was that Sarah did not try in school. But it seems a lot like she was resentful of her daughter and she wanted to make her life as miserable as possible. I don't like to speculate, but that's exactly what it sounds like, because at some point a hit dog is going to holler. As promised in their plea deals, both Kevin Bergen and John Ridgeway were sentenced to 30 years for murder and 30 years for armed robbery, respectfully. Sarah Grace Nickel received a 30-year sentence just for the armed robbery. They were never able to prove that she was actually the mastermind, but she was at the scene of the crime. So they did go ahead and charge her with the armed robbery. She just did not receive the murder charge. I do like Sarah. I find that she is one best taken in small doses because of the reasons that I've stated before. But this case I found was really, really just sad, because I think this was the first time I had heard of or really took it in that somebody could go to the extent of murdering their parents. I mean, whose parents doesn't get on their nerves at a time or two? But I don't think it ever sunk into me that people actually go this far. And I sat down and I spoke with her, because I used to do that a lot. I used to ask them like different, if we got into a conversation and the opportunity and the mood presented itself, I would ask them why, like what happened? How did this occur? And she did sit down with me. She was always on the move. That's the thing. Like, you had to catch her when she was on the building and she was just done for the day. And I did a couple of different times. And I just never had an issue with her. Now, while I'll take issue with what she did, because I believe there were better ways to handle it, I just feel like she just did what she felt like was necessary. Now let's discuss the elements of this case. Separately, they all sound just bizarre and unbelievable, but collectively, this was a horrendous and all-around tragic story. I could not imagine feeling like a caged animal my entire life. Well, 17 years worth of that life. At the admission of her stepfather, did not have any privileges. And one thing I cannot stand is for another adult to come after the fact and to testify against the wrongdoings of the victim or the child, or in this case, the perpetrator. Like, you knew. And at some point, somebody has to say something. And that's always my feelings and my thoughts on things when people come to court after the fact and they start telling all these things that they knew in the aftermath. Like, where were you while this was going on? In real true crime fashion, Nell's childhood friend, Rosalyn did write a memoir based on the murder of Nell Crowley Davis, and it's called My Ghost Has a Name. It's all about the story of Sarah and what happened on that day in October of 1999. It is on all major book platforms. I have looked it up, and I did see where you can purchase it on like Google Books. I saw it on Goodreads. I saw it on Barnes and just different platforms. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to. I read it a long time ago, and I cannot find my copy, but I will link it here so that you guys can go and check that out if you want to. It's really a really fascinating story about Sarah and the dynamics between her, her mother, her stepfather, everything that was going on in that house. And I always say, just because somebody turns out to be a victim doesn't mean that they were a victim in life. It is unfortunate what happened to Nell Davis, and I will never condone what she did, but I understand why she felt like that was her only means of escape. But there again, it just depends on the day that you catch Sarah. She might tell you she did it, she might tell you she did not. But that's going to conclude this case. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Death on a Dirt Road. This was a much shorter case, but there's not a lot of information. I did go in the archives to find information on this story. There were no photos of Nell, unfortunately, but I did find a photo of her grave, and I'll go ahead and put it somewhere here on the screen so that you guys can see it. But once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Go ahead and leave your like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought about this down below. I will be back with a longer case. It just depends on, like I said, all the information that I can find. In some of these cases, because they are archived and because they are older, there's not going to be so much updated information about them. And this happened back in the day before electronic means were available, so it's not uncommon that you don't find a lot of information. But I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. Thank you for tuning in to Night TV. I hope I'll see you in the next one. Turn the lights off.